So if you go to like the 1980s, some of the worst movies that were ever made, like the cocaine years, those I really strongly feel like those people were going on reputations of sales, and the studio would put a lot of money behind someone who had a great reputation, and this guy's fucking partying and doing lines and writing crazy shit in these scripts, and some of them are good and some of them aren't so good, but they're all kind of clunky. Yeah. They're all kind of disconnected. That like a true masterpiece of a movie isn't, like Taxi Driver. Like you go back and watch Taxi Driver, that's a masterpiece of a movie. It's so connected. You're connected to all the action. It's like you're on the edge of your seat. It's wild. The acting's insane. Even Jodie Foster as a kid is insane in it. It's so good. But cocaine movies in the 80s, they were nuts, man. They didn't go on algorithms. I think they just went on what they thought people wanted. They probably took polls, but who the fuck's answering polls? Polls are the worst way to get information because you're only getting information from people dumb enough to answer polls. Like, that's such a small group of people. How many people answer polls when they call you up? How many fucking people with a life have time for a poll? Do you think Jordan Peterson has ever answered a poll?
Yeah, like I always get those calls and immediately hang up.
Yeah, just shut the fuck up. I'm sorry I have to do this to you, but bye. No, don't hang up. Some of them will beg. Please.
Yeah,
they can't get anybody to do it.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see throughout history times when people were able to really connect with other humans, like on that, like whether it's through movie or film or cars or whatever. It's like maybe it was the psychedelics or whatever, I don't know, but there was a huge disconnect. It seemed like after the 70s with all of that, things kind of went off. And it's interesting even now, like I see a lot of the new movies coming out. They're all just sort of remakes of. They're like a reconceptualization of something that's happened 15 years ago. There's not a lot of like new stuff out there for people to connect with.
Yeah, Matt Damon did this conversation about why it's so much more difficult to make movies now. There's no DVD sales anymore, and it was very interesting, and it kind of makes sense. I think it's really hard to finance those fucking things, and you want a guaranteed success. What's a guaranteed success? You need a superhero. People like superheroes, and if your superhero is trans, even better. If you could figure out a way to make it every ethnicity inside the group of superheroes that are there, perfect. Now we're good. Yeah. Now we need CGI, we need aliens, explosions.
Yeah, I think CGI is a blessing and a curse because, like, I don't know, some of the best film, it doesn't necessarily have the best stunts or you can tell where some of it's fabricated, but that's okay because the whole thing's a fabrication going into it. It's just about like being able to believe the story within it. That's what's important, Even like I'm not a huge movie guy, and I guess it's difficult for me to sit 3 hours and watch something straight. My mind's already long gone within the first 30 minutes doing something else, but Star Wars was really partial to me growing up. And I don't think they'll ever touch the original series, even though, like you can tell some of it, like even with some of the renovations they've done on the newer versions of it, like adding CGI into the old films. It's like just the story of the originals to me meant a lot more than the newer stuff, just because of you don't believe it looking at it with your eyes as much, but you believe it more with your mind, like listening to what it has to tell you.
I think that Star Wars is like generational wealth. Like the original guy who started the company was a bad motherfucker. That guy was out there grinding, and he was selling soap out of the back of a wagon in 1890. But the folks who inherited the company 3, 4, and 5 generations in, they're kind of flat. It's different. When I watch Star Wars now, it's like a bunch of stuff happening. It's still fun. They're still good. I enjoy them.
Yeah.
But Star Wars won in the context of whatever year it was. What was it, 77 or something like that?
Hey, there you go.
Let's take a pop. What do you think it is? What was first Star Wars, if you had to guess?
Yeah, probably late 70s, I'd say.
Yeah, I want to say like 77.
In my unprofessional opinion.
Am I right? 77? Yay!
Look at that.
That movie at that time was fucking groundbreaking. It was amazing. Rick Baker did the special effects. And that was when I was a serious special effects nerd. Like when I was a little kid, I wanted to do special effects for the movies. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I became a giant fan of Rick Baker. That's why we have that American Werewolf in London in the lobby.
Oh, okay.
That's what that's
gotcha.
from.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like this guy named Pat McGee. It's funny because that's our second one. We have another one that's in the pool hall. And the reason why is that Pat McGee, who is this amazing special effects guy, he was also on the podcast back in the day. he made an American Werewolf in London you could buy online. And I'm like, that would be the sickest thing for the studio ever. And then Rick Baker came and was a guest, and Rick Baker said the proportions are off. Like the wolf, the arms weren't as long. It was like shorter. It was like this and that. So Pat McGee listened, and he was like, shit, I got to make a better one. And so he made an even better one. And the new one is all hair. There's no synthetic hair. So it's all like, I think it's yak hair that they use. So it's like individual hairs are put in all over this wolf, and it looks fucking amazing.
It does look, that's the first thing that catches your eye walking in here, I'd say, out of everything. It's like, whoa.
That thing's sick.
You're not going to find one of those many other places.
That was my 100% my favorite horror movie. I love that movie because it's funny, it's terrifying. It has to do with the werewolf theme. To me is so amazing that you take some person who's like a good person, they're a friendly, nice guy, and you're like, hey man, you have to lock yourself in a cage, you're gonna become a monster. It's like, what the fuck are you saying? That doesn't make any sense. And they never want to believe, and you know it's gonna happen. And in that one, that was the first time in one of those movies where you got to see like the advancements of special effects. Like, what year was American Werewolf in London? Let's guess that. I want to say 82. I'm going to say 82, 84. 81.
81.
I should have stuck with 82. Back then, when you had special effects, it was like kind of like they didn't move that good. Like they couldn't get their faces to move that good. But he had figured out a way to get your hands to grow, like, and he had to figure out a way to get things in his cheeks where his cheeks were bubbling.
Yeah,
and it's
awesome.
All real. None of it is CGI. And there's something about that uncanny valley when you're watching a CGI transformation. Your brain knows it's bullshit. For whatever reason, you're better off having it look fake but be a real thing, like John Carpenter's The Thing. You're better off with that than you are with CGI. For whatever reason. CGI just...
I mean, I think we just have seen...
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, this is behind the scenes footage I was want to show you.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was pretty cool because it still moves in a really interesting way.
Yeah, but that's a physical thing moving. It's not a CGI. That does look exactly like the wolf in the lobby, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So, but back then they couldn't even get the thing to close its mouth. Look how sick that is.
That's awesome.
Imagine if you're in a subway and you see that fucking thing turning a corner. Oh my God. That scene was amazing. Where the poor guy was stuck in the subway and he was running from it, and then you see it at the bottom of the escalator stairs. That's like just those quick glimpses of a thing like that is so much more terrifying than some long CGI'd up monster killing someone scene.